On this edition of Southern Newsweek, ladies trade in fascinators for sun hats at this year's Melbourne Cup races at Wingatui. Dunedin MP David Clark is welcomed back to the fold by Jacinda Ardern, and passenger air services resume between Wanaka and Christchurch. Kia ora, I'm Daryl Baser. Sun hats replaced fascinators at Dunedin's annual Big Day at the races this year. A light breeze, a lot of sunshine and a temperature of almost 20 degrees greeted the smaller than usual crowds at Wingatui on Tuesday afternoon.
About half the usual crowd of young people turned out to cheer on their favourite horse at this year's Melbourne Cup Day at Wingatui on Tuesday. But club president Ray Keane says he's happy with the day.
We're really excited about today. The weather has really excelled and made it such a great day. The crowd looks really good.
Due to uncertainties about what COVID-19 restrictions might be in force, sponsored events such as the popular Fashion in the Field were cancelled this year.
Look, everybody dresses up and enjoys it. I think we certainly have had that in the past, but just with various reasons, with sponsors and that sort of thing, we decided not to have it this year.
As a result, there were less of the stylish outfits worn by Fashion in the Field hopefuls than seen in previous years.
Yeah, I feel like it's more casual this year. Last year was definitely a lot more dressed up, I feel.
Keane says they've survived this year's dramatic downturn in racing and are looking forward to more meetings over the summer.
We came through it, better than most. I think we through various subsidies and that, we were able to assist. We were very grateful for that. And hard work done by the staff to make it work. And we're very comfortable.
The next Otago Racing Club meeting is in Cromwell at the beginning of December. In Wingatui, the South today.
In naming her new cabinet, Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern has welcomed MP for Dunedin David Clark back to the fold. Dr Clark was relieved of the health portfolio after multiple breaches of the country's lockdown rules, but says he's pleased to be back.
Looking over his new portfolios, Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern announcing David Clark's new portfolios in Wellington yesterday afternoon.
David Clark re-enters Cabinet with the roles of Minister of Commerce and Consumer Affairs, the new consolidated portfolio of Minister for Digital Economy and Communications, also covering government digital services, statistics and Minister for SOEs.
Member of Parliament for Dunedin, David Clark is back in the office today and thankful to be back in Cabinet.
I'm very excited to have the opportunity to serve again. Obviously that's a decision taken by the Prime Minister and caucus, and it's nice to have their support. I've got quite a heavy workload lined up, which I'm excited about. There's lots to get my teeth stuck into.
2020 has been a rocky year for many, with the COVID-19 pandemic sweeping the globe. The then Health Minister's career took a dive when he was forced to resign.
So I've made the call that it is best for me to stand aside.
When his sign-written van was spotted at a cycle track during lockdown. However, he's keen to look to the future instead of the past.
No, I'm just delighted to be back and part of a government that Jacinda Ardern's leading so ably.
Dr Clark isn't the only Southern gentleman being promoted in the formation of the 53rd Parliament, with South Dunedin raised Grant Robertson accepting the Deputy Prime Minister role, which Clark says is good for the South.
It's delightful that Grant Robertson has picked up the Deputy Prime Minister role. People in Dunedin who know him, and there are many, know what a person of integrity he is, how talented he is as a politician, how talented he's been as a finance minister. But I think, as I say, those values that he has, how grounded he is from his upbringing in South Dunedin.
He says the new combined digital economy and communications portfolio is a significant role, which could be pivotal in helping New Zealand's economy flourish.
We're largely the envy of the world. Other countries are going into lockdown. We've got the opportunity here to really build our economy, to continue to grow in a way that other countries can't. And so I'm keen to be a part of capitalising on that.
Ministers are due to be sworn into their new roles in the coming weeks. In Dunedin, the South Today.
After a 7-year break, passenger flights have resumed between Wanaka and Christchurch. Community leaders are hoping the new venture will be a success, and the local MP made a point of catching a flight both ways.
So welcome guys, have a nice flight, looks like a perfect day, and we'll see you again.
The first passenger flight from Wanaka to Christchurch in 7 years took off at 8 a.m. this morning. Both Queenstown Mayor Jim Bolt and Queenstown Airport CEO Colin Keel say it's a positive step for Wanaka to have passenger services on offer again after Air New Zealand pulled out in 2013.
I think this is right for Wanaka, and good to see some local residents out here using it this morning.
It's really a standalone service, and it's really about connecting, Wanaka beyond to New Zealand, in this case Christchurch. And listen, I think it's a great opportunity to start this service. Seems to have great community support, and I think so many of us are really excited about it.
Wanaka Airport is managed by neighbouring Queenstown Airport, but the CEO says they're not looking at expanding the passenger service to Queenstown. Despite the current absence of overseas tourists, he believes the Sounds air service is likely to be a success.
It might be counterintuitive to start a new service given what we've been dealing with COVID, but I actually think it's a perfect opportunity to reconnect folks across the country, and that's why we're so excited about it. I think it really gives a real uplift to any community to have a new air service starting.
Each flight is about 50 minutes, and recently re-elected Waitaki MP Jacqui Dean took the opportunity to fly to Christchurch and back on the first day of operation.
Oh, it's wonderful. It was a very smooth flight. It's a beautiful plane, and the people on the plane were super excited to be able to land in Wanaka with a flight which takes something between 50 minutes and 45-50 minutes, rather than driving for hours and hours and hours.
The Sounds air flights between Wanaka and Christchurch cost between $100 and $300. In Wanaka, the South Today.
Otago Peninsula residents are divided whether speed limits on their roads should be lowered. Many people addressed speed limits bylaw hearings at the Dunedin City Council recently.
It seems a question of horsepower is creating conflict on the Otago Peninsula. Pukehiki resident Lynn Samuels says many roads in the area are multi-use, with walkers and horse riders like herself, and the current vehicle speed limits are too high.
This is a rural area. We have rural activities. I go horse riding. There's dog walkers, there's people on bikes, there's people walking, and we have no footpaths.
There is support for speed limits to be reduced at Pukehiki, but many people are opposed to reductions around the rest of Otago Peninsula. Larnaca Castle Director and Camp Road resident Norcom Barker opposes lowering the limit in rural areas from 80 kilometres an hour to 60, labelling the idea unrealistic and impractical. However, Samuels believes visibility is often an issue.
At the higher speeds, a lot of brine bends, so if they're overtaking something going slower, if they go across the median line, they can't see what's coming around the bends. It's often you can't see very well up here because of the fog and the mist.
A range of opinions have been expressed on the Council's proposal to reduce speed limits, including dropping the speed limit from 80 to 60 kilometres an hour on high-risk rural roads and enacting a 40 kilometre an hour limit through Otago Peninsula townships. Samuels says there's been a considerable amount of community consultation.
We've had community workshops, we've had community meetings, we've met up the community board on several occasions, and Paul Pope today at the meeting actually put forward what we've been asking for up here, and as he pointed out, he's been on the board for 9 years and Pukehiki is always on about speeds.
His thoughts are echoed by Otago Peninsula Community Board Chairman Paul Pope, who says the board surveyed 450 residents and says the majority did not want to see speed limits on the peninsula reduced. Some submitters say lowering speed limits will increase frustration among motorists and may make some roads more dangerous. In Dunedin, the South Today.
And still to come on Southern Newsweek, a food shop in Roxburgh only opens on a Friday, and Palmerston motocross rider Courtney Duncan is a world champion again. See you after the break. Welcome back. Citizenship ceremonies weren't possible during COVID-19 restrictions, and coronavirus was one of the factors influencing people's decisions to officially become New Zealand citizens in Dunedin on Monday.
New Zealand's approach to COVID-19 has influenced people's decision to become New Zealand citizens.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I've got lots of family back home in the UK who are struggling quite a lot now with constant lockdowns and misinformation and and the other problems coming along with Brexit and so on and so forth. And New Zealand's extremely stable.
His views are shared by some of the others choosing to become citizens who vow they'll never leave New Zealand.
At our age, we thought we'd better make an effort to become a citizen, and because of the current situation, you see, it's not good at all overseas, so we thought it would be a good idea.
I felt quite emotional about it, really, when we first got our certificates, because I say this is home. We love the outdoors, we love tramping and boating and all the gorgeous things within 10 minutes of the city centre. We don't want to live anywhere else but Dunedin.
I might as well do it. I'm here to stay. I have no intentions of returning home to the UK. This is my home. I've lived here longer than I've lived anywhere, basically. And I love Dunedin. It's a fantastic place to live.
Dunedin Mayor Aaron Hawkins officiated yesterday's proceedings before meeting and greeting the city's newest locals.
We decided that we would organise an event for people who'd become citizens during COVID and celebrate their new status as citizens, not just of New Zealand obviously, but here in Dunedin.
Mayor Hawkins has had a tough week, with lengthy council meetings stretching into the night and a reoccurring issue around one council member. The Mayor says ceremonies like this shouldn't be too closely compared with some of his arguably more taxing tasks.
The job of Mayor is in two parts. One is in terms of governing the council and the work that council does, and the other is as a representative of your community doing public events. And it's unfair to compare the two functions, but this is certainly a more reliably upbeat and uplifting experience than an 8-hour council meeting can be. Yes.
37 New Zealanders were welcomed as citizens at yesterday afternoon's ceremony held in the Dunedin Centre. In Dunedin, the South Today.
A Teviot Valley local, back from overseas about 6 weeks ago, has started a food shop that's only open one day a week. The shop is already popular enough to keep its owner busy most of the week, preparing items to be sold each Friday.
Miller's Flat local Steph Pearce is back from her OE and has started a shop in nearby Roxburgh that's only open on a Friday, selling all manner of delicious items for people to stock up on for their weekend.
I wanted to do something that was for the locals, that people could just pop in once a week and get all their treats and treat themselves to some delicious, wholesome food.
She grew up on the Pearce Orchard, which is famous for its fruit and veg stall, and now supplies her with a lot of the produce used in her cooking.
It was just normal life to have lots of colourful, fresh food around. I took an interest in cooking since, I can't even remember, but I think I was 6 and I was making crepes for my whole family.
And she's already planted her own rhubarb, raspberries, herbs and other vegetables to help provide fresh ingredients for her to cook with.
The food needs to be fresh and colourful and lots of new nutrients, but also to look beautiful and bring joy to your life. So I really focus on adding as much wholesome, nutritious stuff into the food, but also making it look beautiful so it's like a treat.
Local and Friday has only been open for about 6 weeks, with clientele steadily building up each week, and salads being one of the most popular items. In Roxburgh, the South Today.
Dunedin-based rider Courtney Duncan has defended her Women's World Motocross Championship title, but it took tremendous guts and the ride of her life to even stay in the hunt. The 24-year-old had the worst possible start in the penultimate race of the series in Italy during the weekend. After a rider cut in front of her, Duncan lost her balance, clipping the back of another rider's bike and thumping into the turf. Then, picking up her Kawasaki KX250, she rode the only way she knows how. Duncan made her way from the very back of the field, taking tough lines into corners, making double jumps, and bold passing manoeuvres. The Palmerston-based prodigy is set to return to New Zealand next week and begin a 2-week quarantine, where she might be able to reflect on being crowned world champion for a second straight year. The Wakatipu Basin's most popular sporting event, the Queenstown Marathon, is set to go ahead this month. Despite the absence of overseas competitors, organisers say the numbers for the event are looking good.
Last year's Queenstown Marathon attracted over 12,000 entrants, with more than 3,000 from overseas. But this year, with borders closed due to COVID-19, it's hoped that New Zealanders will make up the shortfall, and indeed 10,000 have already signed up for next month's event.
Still a lot of Aucklanders coming down, a lot of people from Wellington. Obviously the Otago drive market regions are really strong. But yeah, look, as I said, the domestic audience is filling up that gap that the internationals are leaving with not being able to get to the event. So if it goes ahead, fingers crossed, then we'll be looking good.
The marathon is the largest annual sporting event in the Wakatipu area and is expected to inject more than $8 million into the local economy. But Beach says planning this year's event hasn't been straightforward.
Yeah, look, it's pretty tricky, to be honest. So you live on a bit of a knife edge, waiting to see if there's going to be a change in alert levels, another outbreak, etc. But at this stage, the country's in level 1, and we're looking really good for an event in November. And we just have to hope there's no more outbreaks.
And with COVID still a concern, Beach is hoping the government will start looking at mass gatherings on a case-by-case basis.
I guess what we'd like to see is a more sophisticated approach to mass gatherings and look at the level of risk associated with each type of gathering. And if the risk can be mitigated to an acceptable level according to health authorities, then we'd like to see mass gatherings up to certain limits still being able to proceed under those higher alert levels. So we've got those conversations underway with government.
The Queenstown Marathon is set to run on the 21st of November. In Queenstown, the South today.
And after the break on Southern Newsweek, jet boats roar up the Waitaki River in one leg of a week-long marathon, and an avid art lover has turned his home into a living gallery. See you after the break. Welcome back. Jet boats roared up and down the Waitaki River north of Oamaru as part of the New Zealand Jet Boat Marathon on Tuesday. The annual petrol head event started last weekend on Lake Wanaka and is set to finish on mid-Canterbury rivers this Friday.
The New Zealand Jet Boat Marathon held 3 legs on the Waitaki River yesterday. Racing between Glenavy and Kurau, the high-speed watercraft travelled a total of more than 200 kilometres over the day.
Yeah, up and down the Waitaki. We're doing 3 legs, up, down, back up, which is 70 odd k's a leg.
Speed is of the essence, with Wilson's 19-foot FX-class jet boat regularly sitting at its top speed of 130 kilometres per hour, with the odd mishap a distinct possibility.
I do bend it every now and then. Yeah, the odd dint comes in, but yeah.
So far the marathon, which started last weekend on Lake Wanaka before moving on to the Upper Clutha, Matukituki and Waitaki rivers, has been without much incident, thanks to the rivers running reasonably high.
No, we've touched the bottom once in the whole marathon so far, so we're pretty happy.
Today was a rest day for the drivers, with 19 boats scheduled to move to the Rakaia River tomorrow and the Waimakariri River on Friday. However, heavy rain in the Southern Alps and West Coast may lead to the Rakaia River flooding and not being suitable for racing, which would bring the marathon back to the Waitaki River for another spell on the waterway. In Kurau, the South today.
A new multi-agency initiative aiming to increase literacy in budding young readers has been launched in South Dunedin. The Read, Share, Grow project is part of the National Library's Communities of Readers program, encouraging young people to read for pleasure.
Completely spellbound. Dunedin Public Library's Youth Outreach Coordinator Sue Aiken holds the attention of youngsters at Rainbow Preschool.
Hold all those beers? Yeah. You think so? Yeah. I hope so.
The Read, Share, Grow project is a team effort between the Dunedin City Council, National Library of New Zealand, local runaka and the Methodist Mission.
You will see that there's quite a lot in the media at the moment about literacy and language delay. We know that 50% of our working population aren't adequately literate. So with the time people spend on screens, I think it's really important that we look at thinking about the importance of reading from an early age. So hopefully we can keep reading and literacy levels high.
DCC Special Projects Relationship Manager Kirsty Glengarry says reading at a young age helps set people up for better opportunities in later life. Rainbow Preschool is the first place to receive a box of books through the initiative, which Family Support Coordinator Wendy-Anne Jarvis says will really help the whole community.
With so many of our families going through a tough time at the moment, including COVID, that actually to have a bit of joy. If we can have happy parents, we can have happy children, and so that's going to be part of this project, is going to make children's and parents' days.
The scheme is focused on children aged 3 to 7 and is part of the Communities of Readers project, which aims to build and cement the concept of reading for pleasure. Jarvis says reading with youngsters is a big part of their caregiving, and this new consignment of books may well see more reading on couch time.
Even as teachers, when you're passionate about it, and certainly within our preschool there is a teacher or a volunteer or a parent that's always on the couch. Children are just gravitated to people reading stories, so if we can encourage them to follow through on that at home, every little bit counts, even if it's one a day. What a difference that will make.
The books are in a variety of languages and are being delivered to early childhood centres, schools and community organisations in South Dunedin for children to keep and share. In Dunedin, the South Today. A walking tour gave people the opportunity to learn more about Kaiapoi's regeneration projects recently. About 100 hectares of former red zone land is now a food forest, which includes permaculture gardens.
It was hot and sunny last Saturday when a group took part in the Kaiapoi River Wellbeing Walk, with Waimakariri Mayor Dan Gordon pointing out how valuable the river has become for recreational activities.
I think one of the real assets that's come about has been the Marine Precinct along here, which has brought about the Port and Eagle. The Marina Council spent about $1 million dredging through the river here so that there's a channel for boats to come along so that there can be that activity. It's one of the real jewels in our crown, I think, is the river and making the most of it, hence what this walk's about today, which is celebrating the river and seeing its natural beauty.
The walk also took in some of the 100 hectares of former red-zoned residential land now turned into food forest, with an emphasis on not digging to avoid releasing greenhouse gases.
We are a don't dig, we don't spray here. If you dig and start opening up the ground, you release the carbon. So we feed the ground from top down. We started off with the first layers of knots of cardboard first, and then we covered it with mulch, and we just keep covering all the areas up with mulch.
The food forest also features permaculture, which involves having an area covered with trees and plants of different heights.
You might have an apple tree, then you might have your citrus, and then your berries like raspberries and blackberries, right down to your small plants like your celery and your planting, your vegetables and all that sort of thing. The
food forest has become a place for families to enjoy a picnic, as well as learning about permaculture gardening. In Kaiapoi, the South Today.
Bob Fitzpatrick likes nothing more than searching for a new treasure for his Dunedin house. And now the avid art lover has turned his home into a living gallery.
The 3-bedroom Dunedin house of Rob Fitzpatrick is full of porcelain and furniture, with 135 paintings lining the walls. He's a retired typographer who says collecting has been in his family since he was a boy.
When I was about 6 or 7, my uncle Steve, he would go on Friday up to the old Broadway near Spates, the brewery, and along there was a whole lot of shops, and one was a second-hand shop, and we used to go in there, and we'd spend quite a bit of time in there, and now and again he'd buy me something.
A wooden, spire-like object hangs by the front door, a wicked witch lurks in the living room, and a christening font stands in the bathroom. Just a few of the treasures Fitzpatrick has collected over many years, saying he enjoys the thrill of the chase.
I love hunting. I just love hunting, and I like at the auctions.
Every room of the otherwise modest 1896 built house has a display area of one sort or another. He says it's getting harder to find the unusual pieces he desires, but says he's in the collecting and auction hunting game for the long haul.
Oh, I'll collect all my life. Oh yes. Oh yeah, till I die. Oh yes, I just can't stop it.
His house is filled with stunning portraits in gilded frames, delicate porcelain figurines, and all manner of objets d'art. Leaning nonchalantly next to an exquisite and ornate clock, Fitzpatrick says if one is after a good quality timepiece, go second hand.
And whoever you wanted a good watch, and they have the top brands, Omega and all these real good watches, don't buy a new one, go to the auction house and get a watch or any jewellery. Yeah.
With a twinkle in his eye, he says he enjoys bidding at auctions, especially when tactical bidding pays off and he beats a rival collector to a treasure. In Dunedin, the South Today.
And that wraps up this edition of Southern Newsweek. For the latest news from the Southern region, head online to odt.co.nz and follow Channel 39 on YouTube and Facebook. Thanks for watching. Ka kite anō.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.